Chuck from IBS was giving a presentation yesterday where he said, yeah, you need to have the technology, but really the biggest change that needs to happen is that transformation within your organization. And I fully subscribe to that, and I think this is fundamentally also where we see our value in. Yes, we provide a fantastic product, great user experience, easy to implement, but that's a given in our day and age.
We are here at IATA World Cargo Symposium in London, and with me is a very special guest. I must say that a cool founder and a cool CEO, Moritz, who founded cargo.one, digital marketplace for air freight industry, really revolutionizing how the air freight industry has been digitalizing over the last few years. A company that was founded in 2017, 2018. And Moritz, great to have you for this conversation. We're keeping it as cool as possible and keep the conversation free flow.
Exactly. Reji, thanks very much. And I think, we've known each other now for some time. It's always been very good doing this together. Thanks for having me.
Moritz, let's talk about, I think we have seen the last 3-4 years of digital transformation, as we call it, of the air freight industry. Are we in a better place or are things the same or more things to be changed?
More change is needed always, I think, absolutely. But look, we're in such a different place. I think we met for the first time in Singapore in, 2019 at WCS, and it was a wholly different industry then. Digital distribution, digital bookings didn't exist. We were very, very, very few technology companies coming into the space, and by now that has changed. There is a bunch of new players entering on all different sides of the industry. There's a lot of new talent coming in, which is very, very encouraging. Digital distribution and bookings have picked up dramatically. Like the world's largest air freight carriers are now doing it. And I think 4 years ago, frankly, that was still very much like our hope, but not the reality. And so that's massively changed over the past 4 years. And we like to think of ourselves, I think, as a bit of a slow industry, but I think that's happened pretty rapidly. And we've gone from zero to like tens of thousands of online bookings. That's cool. That's cool. And there's more to come.
Are you happy with the progress of the company, the way it has grown from 2017 with probably 13 member, 12 member to 140 now, and also happy with the progress of the industry in terms of digital adoption?
Yeah, 100%. Look, we started out in 2018. We were 3 founders and one other person doing product development, but now we're 130 people taking care of our customers. Digital experts, right, that build technology and have in their very DNA technology, and that's fantastic. But we've also brought in a lot of people from the industry that help us take care of our customers. And our approach has very much been over the past couple of years, not just pushing a technology product into the market, but also bringing along the people to drive that change with our partners. Because it's not that easy to take everyone on that journey and to motivate people and to have them actually buy into this. And this is massively important. I think we've been very successful in doing that. And as I said, I think on the, general development of the industry, there is still a lot that we need to do. And just talking about airway builds, right? Like we're happy of having, digital airway builds, but the reality is the airway build and an 8-digit number is just outdated in itself. We should change it. We should go, and find a unique identifier that works differently and becomes a standard. But we're making good progress as we go.
Moritz, are you better off to convince an airline to come on board or do they still consider as digital marketplace as something completely strange?
It's changed fundamentally. I think, when we started out 4 years ago, we were sitting at a boardroom with airlines and people there were saying, look, this is a huge risk. We don't want to take it. And airline DNA is, we don't want to take risks. And that's good. We want to fly and not die, right? I think that's good, but that also meant that we had to do a lot of pushing. If we enter those same boardrooms today, it's a fundamentally changed situation. The risk is now not being part of it, right? And so fundamentally, the discussions have changed. As I said, we've got some of the largest air freight carriers in the world joining or having joined digital marketplaces. cargo.one has grown phenomenally. We have 30 carriers that actually work with us today. We have a few big announcements in the coming weeks coming up. And so it's not a question of, whether we should do it anymore for carriers. It's a question of why haven't we done it and, what is holding us back.
Okay, I think that's the biggest validation when you have the biggest carriers coming on board. I think that's the biggest validation. Tell us about also the growth of your company in terms of perhaps you were the one company that went very early on completely remote and you have perhaps some 25, 26 nationalities represented within like 140 employees. There is also the growth of the company. Started off as a small logistics startup in Berlin, and now it's spread across the world.
A tiny logistics startup in Berlin, exactly, in a back alley, literally, with a few people. And we decided very early that because of the industry that we're in, we wanted to be global. And if you're a small company, global means you can't have offices everywhere. You can't, fundamentally, that doesn't work. And so we said, if we want to be global, we got to be remote. And then COVID came, right, and absolutely accelerated that development. But as you said, now we've got, I think, 23 countries in which we have people, working with cargo.one. And that is phenomenal because, one, it allows us to attract talent that we couldn't attract. Not everybody wants to move to Berlin. Not everybody wants to move to, a city that we would have an office in. So that allows us to attract the best talent, both on the technology side, but also on the kind of industry side. And two, it allows us to be really close to our customers. And if you think about it, we're a small company of 130 people still in headcount, but we've got customers literally ranging from Montreal to Miami to all over Europe to the Middle East to Asia to all the way to Japan, right? That's a pretty big area to cover, a lot of time zones to cover. And by being fully remote and by having that team in place, we can actually do that and we can actually be very close to them.
One of the things is also about when you look at the digitalization drive in the air freight industry, a lot of people, first thing that they think about is the electronic airway bill, which is actually the long-hanging fruit, which is the basic thing. When I look at digitalization and digital transformation, there are three things that is very critical to any digital transformation programs. One is a digitization, one is a digitalization, and one is the digital transformation. Where I think digitization is like you make from paper to digital.
Exactly. You take a paper, you take a scan.
Then the technology aspect, you put it, that's digitalization. And the third is the digital transformation, where you bring in the people element, where you also need to, you can have best of the technology, but then if the people are not prepared. To that extent, how do you look at also the change mindset in the people within the air freight industry? I think the average age is still around 50.
I think COVID had a lot of bad things. I don't need to tell you that, but I think it brought one good thing to the industry, which was it elevated it in the minds of people to something relevant. Not just in the boardrooms of, big airlines, but people generally, were exposed to air freight and learned about air freight because it was such a big part of COVID and getting stuff from A to B. And I think as a result of that, we see a lot more interest and a lot more new talent actually coming into the industry. And I think that's phenomenal because it gives us a different perspective, gives us younger minds that come with new ideas and all of that and help us create a more holistic view on this. And we see this across the board. We see it with our own company, but we see it elsewhere as well. And so I think that's been phenomenal. To your point on digitization and digitalization, I think we're still very much in the early stages there, right? And what I feel a lot of companies start to realize now is that technology is not necessarily the blocker. And Chuck from IBS was giving a presentation yesterday where he said, yeah, you need to have the technology, but really the biggest change that needs to happen is that transformation within your organization. And I fully subscribe to that. And I think this is fundamentally also where we see our value at. Yes, we provide a fantastic product, great user experience, easy to implement, but that's a given in our day and age, right? That shouldn't be something but what we also provide is a team of experts that actually takes it to market with our partners, right? Simpson Dammer, our VP of partnerships that came from Lufthansa and Average Cargo, previously Seabury, comes with a ton of experience in those transformational process and how to actually help implement the change on the ground, right? And that goes as far as helping to train teams on the ground to understand what does it mean to receive a digital booking and what does it mean to actually, see that and how can I influence it and how can I be part of it rather than rejecting it and saying, look, I don't understand what happens, so I'm scared of it. I think that's fundamentally where we see, change needed, but also where we see a huge value at as cargo.one in the industry.
Moritz, as a founder, as a CEO of the company, what is the larger vision for cargo.one and the long-term vision for the company?
Look, I think we want to connect global air cargo. There's a lot of players involved. We've taken a first very, very important step of digitalizing the transaction, which happens between freight forwarders and airlines. There's a lot more for us to do that goes beyond that simple transaction between airlines and freight forwarders, and I think this is our vision. We understand how to digitalize processes, and we understand how to implement that change, and connecting all of the different parties along that value chain over time is our ambition. And we think that's really going to make a difference to the industry.
One of the things that we have also observed, and this is what we keep hearing at different conferences and events, is there are a lot of individual excellence that happens within the air cargo industry.
Yeah.
There seems to be some kind of a disconnect in terms of a collective effort to kind of really push hard for a global digital transformation of the air freight industry. Do you think is that something that is changing, or is still there is a hesitancy?
I think it's changing, and I think we're seeing good progress on some of the standardization efforts. For example, MCD that is driven by IATA and some airlines and freight forwarders. I've always been of the opinion, and I said that yesterday on the panel as well, we can't wait for standards to be established in order to see change. If we do that, we'll continue waiting. And, we met in 2018, we didn't wait for any standards. And today we process tens of thousands of bookings. The reality is the standard isn't done yet. And if we had waited, none of this would have happened, right? On the other hand, though, a lot has happened. We've gained a lot of experiences and a lot of understanding of how this actually works. And so now we can actually supplement the standards and we can actually help to develop them. And I think we will need standards. It's always important to find coalition of the willing that implement, that actually work, and then take that learning and put it into something that is scalable and that can be rolled out to anyone else. But I would also say that technology enables us to do things much easier today than they used to be, right? And like API translations, having one standard or one format and another format and connecting that isn't a problem today anymore. And so we must also not be too scared of just publishing what we do and letting other people connect to what we have out there.
I fully endorse that. Islands of excellence, and then probably we don't wait for global standards to come in and we start doing, and I think that's how we begin.
Always have to start doing. Otherwise, yeah.
What is my last question in terms of you've been part of one of the panel discussions. This is a great place to connect and of course also to understand what sentiments of the industry. We had, as far as air freight industry was concerned, last 2 years had been extremely good. I think the reality is slowly kicking in, and there would be a lot of excess capacity that comes into. People will begin to really optimize the capacity, revenue management, cost cutting. What are some of the messages that you're picking up from while talking to different customers, different people around from IATA WCS here?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been fantastic to be here over the past couple of days. It's so good to see everybody again and kind of connect in real time. And last year, that wasn't really yet possible, and we have a lot of the agent partners coming in and being able to come in now. And so that's been fantastic. I think, as you said, fundamentally, we see the conversation shifting in the boardroom from this is, the best time for air freight that has ever occurred over the past 2 years to times will change and we will see, yields come down, and there's a lot of new capacity in the market that will have to be sold, and demand is starting to crumble a little bit. And so I think a lot of smart carriers have invested into digital over the past 2 years and continue to doing that. And our value proposition on that end remains unchanged, right? We offer carriers a window into the market, to be accessing demand that they wouldn't have otherwise access to, while reducing a lot of the manual overhead that would come with actually doing that. And I think as the market, develops and as we may see overcapacity, that value proposition will only become stronger, and we very much see that reflected in the discussions and conversation that we have with carriers. And again, fundamentally, the conversation has changed to how can we do it and how can we actually get on board, rather than we're not sure whether to do it or not.
Moritz, thank you so much. It's been great catching up with you and having this conversation.
Same, Reji. Thanks so much.